Hello, everyone. My name is Rakes in Smashboards. People also know me as Chiraz, if you know me by that name. I want to talk about the leak that was released yesterday for Smash Brothers and why I believe that the empty battlefield that is shown in the leak, is actually a recreation by someone that does not have access to the official battlefield background. What this would mean is that the leak is probably fake, as if everything else was real, then why would you need to recreate Battlefield yourself, as opposed to asking Nintendo or Namco or whoever for the official one? Basically, this relies on the inconsistencies between the official render and the leak that a lot of people have been chucking up to blurriness or distortion or whatever. I'll show you why that's not the case. But first, let's give a little bit of story so that people can understand what I'm about to explain. Basically, before yesterday, most people, if not all, were not aware that we actually had an empty E3 background. So this is the empty background. This is not Battlefield. This is a different background to Battlefield. This is the official Merle background, empty. This was shown for a few seconds in the E3 treehouse at some point during like a break, and it was shown with characters actually like appearing in. So it was an animation that started empty and they started to appear in. Almost no one knew this actually existed, to the point that it took the whole Smash fan base about 8 to 10 hours just to find this. So it wasn't something that was readily available. What we did have, though, is 3 different versions of the Moro. So this one, and this one, with the characters slightly moved between each version. As you can see, the background is very, very accurate. This is the official background. I mean, this is from Nintendo. Like, there's no doubt about it. So, because there's inconsistencies between this blank background and the leak, people are chucking it up to distortion and blurriness. But then, as a logical way of saying something, of like making an argument or making a conclusion, we need to find a logical way to either prove or disprove the leak. So I am not actually disproving the leak as much as I am disproving specifically the blank background. Like, if there was some reason for the guy to be a legitimate like marketer working for Nintendo, and he was only given the Moro with the characters, and for some reason he wanted to recreate his own Battlefield background, then the leak is true. But I don't believe that. If the background is fake, which I firmly believe it is, then I also believe the leak is probably fake. So, now, how would the user go about recreating this whole background? Well, the first thing we need to understand is there's sections of the map that you can see between characters when they move. A good example of this is around here, I believe. No, it's MiSword. Yeah. So around here, you can see this castle, right? And you can see there's some sections of the castle blocked off. But as Mii Fighter moves, you can basically see the whole castle. So between all 3 recreations, you can for sure get this castle. Like, you can complete it. But now people are saying, well, wouldn't that be too much work? Actually, it wouldn't be as much work as you think. Taking characters off and then sort of merging the backgrounds is actually quite simple. I was taught this yesterday in about 5 minutes. Like, I can't explain to you how simple it is. Let's try this with Diddy Kong, right? Let's pick the current one. And I won't be as precise as I would like to be, just because I don't want to spend a huge amount of time in this. Because my point is just to explain to you how this works. It's not to actually do it accurately. So please try to take into account that if I was actually trying to make this leak believable, I would make it much more accurate. So we picked this lasso tool, which lets you select stuff. And you can select stuff as accurate as you want. You make the selection. So you can make it as accurate as you please. It's about you spending the time to select the pixels, because I could zoom into Diddy Kong much more than I just did. So it's about me taking the time to be as accurate as possible, which I'm not going to do, as I already said. But I'm going to be accurate enough where you understand the concept. So I'm taking Diddy Kong off, right? I'm selecting him. Imagine if I was selecting him like pixel by pixel and just had specifically Diddy Kong. I know Diddy Kong has a cloud behind him and the jet propulsions and shit. This jet propulsions. But I'm not, also, as I said, I'm not going to be super accurate with any of this. So, I just selected Diddy Kong. Now, I right click and I click layer via cut. And now Diddy Kong is a new layer. Let me turn off these two, because this is why it's confusing. It's a new layer. I just caught Diddy Kong from that picture. And then what I can do is, I'll look for another picture where Diddy Kong is in a completely different place. Huh, interesting. There's no Diddy Kong here. And then that same selection that I had, this same selection, which I layered via cut, I can go this selection. In this leak, I can copy it, or I can actually also layer it by cut if I wanted to, right? Move this here, and voila, no Diddy Kong. But wait, give me a second, because what I wanted to do is actually, I'm going to copy this, because I'm going to show you something. I'm going to copy this. And take note, I'm not an artist. There's much better ways to do this kind of stuff. Much, much better ways to do this kind of stuff. And easier, too. Alt Control Z. Okay. And now, layer via cut. Let's see how this looks. Wait. Zoom out, zoom out. Now, I got some of Wing's Pit in there, but that's just because, as I said, I wasn't being 100% accurate, and I left the smoke. If I were to be much more accurate, you would not see these wings, and I would have taken this smoke with me. You would only see the background exactly as it looks. And guess what? Now I have Diddy Kong, and I can actually just go ahead and move Diddy Kong wherever I want him to be. And the background is accurate to what it was before, because I was able to do that. So if I wanted to, I could do that for every single, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. If I wanted to, I could do that for every single character in this mural. And between all three versions, because as you saw, I got the background from the first version, from this version. Between all three versions, I can definitely, give me a second. Between all three versions, I could definitely make around 2/3 of the background. I could take all the characters off and still have about 2/3 of the background left. So then, what about that last 1/3 of the background that's not accounted for? The ones that have always had characters in front of them. Sort of like, let's say, look at Bowser, how Bowser barely moves between versions. He moves a bit, but there's still space that he covers at all times. Link, who also moves a bit, but he still covers some space all the time. Like, yeah, the spaces to his right and to his left are going to be accurate because he's moving. So you can get small spaces to overlay over each other. I don't know, since I'm editing this, I don't know if I already explained how he would get the 2/3 of the map, but basically, you would cut the characters from all three versions, and then you would paste all three versions on top of each other. And then you would have about 2/3 of the map left, of the mural left. So then, what about those spaces that are completely blank because there was always a character left? Well, my theory was, if this leak is true, one of those spaces must be accurate. At least one of those spaces must be accurate. Because then, if one of those spaces is accurate, then that means the leaker accurately guessed what was behind a character that we have never seen. So he would have to literally be a prophet to guess that. So then I started looking for stuff like that. So, say, look in this spot where Bowser, Little Mac, and everyone is. They're always blocking the scene. They're always blocking the scene. Here, you can see a small bit of land if you zoom in close. But aside from that small piece of land, they're always blocking the scene. In the E3 leak, there's actually a whole island there. And this is the small piece of land that you saw before. Like here. This is what was between. If you go into the leak, you can sort of see that small piece of land because it was viewable between Bowser and Cloud. But then everything else is gone. The whole island is gone. The waterfall itself is curved like it's a hole. Like it's just there. That is gone. Yet what we could see between the characters is still there. Interesting, no? Let's go to this side. So look at Day-Day-Day. Day-Day-Day, there's a river here next to Chrom, right? It's like a lake that becomes a river. You can see it becoming a river here. But it actually becomes a waterfall too next to Day-Day-Day and Wario. This is one of the sides of the waterfall. You can see it next to Wario. But later on, Wario sort of blocks it. But then you can also see it next to Day-Day-Day. Just a tiny bit. In the last version, though, you can see quite a bit of it. This is water. This is the color of water in this mural. So this is the waterfall. This waterfall actually comes from this river. God damn it. I'm sorry. Actually comes from this river. But it looks a different color. So you might not even believe it's the same water thing. And in no versions can you actually see this connected because Day-Day-Day is always blocking it. In the E3 official one, we can see how the lake is a river that goes into this. And instead of 3 waterfalls, actually there's a different waterfall, but my point still stands. There's a waterfall next to Wario. And in this one, you can definitely see 3 waterfalls. 1, 2, and 3. There's a color contrast that should be very visible between the water and the land in the leak. Let's see how that looks. You can see the lake. You can see 2 waterfalls. But you cannot see the river where Day-Day-Day would be. Day-Day-Day would be right here. So the parts that Day-Day-Day are blocking are non-existent. The 3rd waterfall that should be here is non-existent, even though it shares the same contrast as these 2. So if these 2 are viewable, the 3rd one should definitely be viewable. It's not because Day-Day-Day was blocking it.